Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura and I'm joined by Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 159 and we put forth our maximum effort in reviewing the biggest movie of the summer, Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. I don't know what episode this is, but I'm excited for it because we got to see a big Hollywood blockbuster movie, and we're going to talk about it on this episode. Sav, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah?
I didn't get my tea in, so I'm like, I'm like, oh man, I'm used to having my little power juice.
Yeah,
But
I don't know that I know you anymore. You don't have your robe on or your big banana suit jumper onesie. Like, who are you? Just wearing a regular shirt today. No tea. I mean, I don't know.
I'm a changed man for the worse. No,
get a girlfriend and lose your early morning swag.
Hey, don't. That's not cool. I still got it. It's just it's in the shop right now. Wait for the next session. I'll be full in mug, quips, robe, purple lighting, the whole nine.
Wonderful. I got my my Baby Yoda shirt on today.
Grogu, called my son by his name.
At the bottom it says
Grogu.
I'm all ears. Grogu. It says I'm all ears. Even though that dude is very bad at listening. Like he does his own thing. He does not listen.
No, Grogu listens. He just doesn't like. He understands what you are saying and comprehends what you are saying.
Yeah,
he's making a conscious, just like, hey, don't repeat yourself. I already heard you once to ignore you.
Well, usually listening implies some bit of like going along with the ideas, but he's not about that. Grogu likes to do his own thing for sure. Kaya actually doesn't hear us sometimes, like little kids. I don't know if you had this experience with your nieces and nephews, but like you'll be talking to them and they'll just be like babbling their own thing or like involved with their thing, and you'll ask them like 3 times, and then you'll be like, Kaya, did you hear my question? And she'll be like, no. I'm like, oh, okay, listen real quick.
You gotta use economy of language with them.
I mean, even if the question is simple, like it's like, Kaya, can you go potty? Kaya, can you go potty? Kaya, can you go potty? And she doesn't respond. She like literally is like still talking, or she's doing her, coloring or whatever. And I'll tap her and I'll be like, hey, did you hear mommy's question? And she'll be like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, listen real quick. Mommy's going to ask you a question. And then she hears the question and she can answer it. But it's so funny. Like,
was Kyan trying to hear that shit? My son working on her art. That's how it is when people ask me stuff and you doing something that's just of more importance. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I was doing a more engaging.
How do you know? Maybe you don't know because the question might have been really cool. Kaya just doesn't hear it. So once she hears it, she can answer. But it's so funny. Like her just brain can only focus on like literally one thing at a time. It's like talking or writing. And as a teacher, you know this, but it's really funny to see it in a kid.
Don't worry. Give it some time and then she'll be able to parallel process and still make a conscious decision to ignore you. Like,
yeah, hey, that'll be more frustrating.
No need to repeat yourself. I ignored you just fine the first time.
We'll have to like text her on her phone to get her to answer a question.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we get to talk about the only Marvel movie of the year, and I think that we'll talk about that a little bit. But only Marvel movie of the year: Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool number 3 or Logan number 2, kind of however way you want to look at it. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman unite. They bring their hilarity and their acting chops into one movie. And 2 of Marvel's probably most popular characters. I mean, I think there's probably some arguments to be made for some other characters, but obviously 2 of the ones that people really are into, might get a tattoo of, that kind of thing, or put a sticker on their car. These 2 would be up there on that list. Before we get into the film, though, what has been your sort of experience or enjoyment of the Deadpool movies to this point? If you want to talk about the Wolverine movies, you can, but since this, is really Deadpool 3, how did you feel about the Deadpool movies?
So it's interesting because
Oh, wait, sorry. Before you answer, we should acknowledge that Brian is not here.
Oh, I gotta acknowledge it. You know he's not here. He's just been silent.
Well,
the
viewers
time.
might not know he's not here. They're waiting for him to chime in, and he's not going to.
Yeah,
Brian is all the way in Paris watching the Olympics, enjoying his best life. He's also making a movie or making his documentary. So that it's like a semi-work, semi-personal trip for himself. So good on him. Hope he's enjoying himself out there in the heat and staying cool, but enjoying all the sport balls. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sav. Keep going.
Well, I lost my train of thought, Wes.
Oh no, I'm so
Thanks,
sorry. It's
bro.
my fault. My fault.
Were we even? Oh yeah, my opinion of the Deadpool movies.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Keep me honest. I have very interesting opinions about the Deadpool movies because I have historically enjoyed them. Because you know me, Wes, I'm pretty good, especially with superhero movies, being able to just kind of turn my brain off and just enjoy the movie for what it is. It's not meant to be this Oscar thing. These are just entertainment for these fantastical characters, right? So I've always enjoyed Deadpool, but honestly, it's something I might actually kind of lean in on with the, with the pod is like, I think the Deadpool movies have this weird double standard about them where I like them, I enjoy them, I'll rewatch them, but it seems like a lot of the stuff that MCU fans complain about and bicker about over the years, the Deadpool movies have always been quote unquote guilty of. So I don't know. Deadpool, I have this weird
Tell me
relationship
more.
with the movie. People complain about CGI, fights without stakes, characters being quippy, all of the stuff that's just complaints. And the Deadpool movies are egregiously guilty of all of those things, top to
Those
bottom.
are not my complaints, so we'll get to how I feel about it. But those are not my complaints.
Yeah. But you've heard those as common complaints.
I could hear Brian. I could hear Brian having a little bit of an issue with that for sure.
Yeah, but that's a common theme I've heard. Like people, like there's the online jokes of, oh, MCU movies be like, oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? And I'm like, well, that happened in maybe one Marvel movie. But the Deadpool movies straight up do that all the time.
All the time.
That's what I mean. It feels like this is cool, but it feels like it's cool if the Deadpool movies do it, not if others do it. And it's a weird dynamic that I'm trying to make sense of because I still like these movies.
I see what you're pointing
but
at.
It feels like the things that people like about Deadpool are things that they actively criticize other Marvel movies for.
Gotcha.
So I've always been trying to make sense of like, where's the push-pull? And I guess I'll explain this more when we get into it. But overall, I've liked the movies, and I went into this movie being pleasantly, like, not the highest of expectations, but like I expected to be entertained.
I think what you're talking about is a legit thing in that, like, yes, I think people do give Deadpool a pass, and so it's like interesting why. I would guess, and I'm not in the heads of everybody or anything like that, or I haven't done any focus groups. My guess is that they give Deadpool a little bit of a pass on that because it's self-aware, and from the get-go you understand that like this movie is sort of a little bit like poking fun of both itself and the superhero genre, right? And so you're expecting it to do things and lampoon those sort of tropes that maybe can bug people, but they're going to try and pull it off in a way that like makes it clear that it's like a wink. Like, we know we're doing this and we're still going to do it anyways because we think it's funny, right? Like the superhero landing, right, that they made fun of in the first movie, it was like funny because it was true, but also because the movie had sort of the like framework of we're just going to make fun of ourselves this entire movie. And so I think that's probably why they get away with it more than you would in a movie where it's like, hey, let's take ourselves really seriously and like all of the emotional stakes matter here, and then don't do that, right? So it's like kind of the signal you're sending about what you're trying to achieve in the movie. I don't know. Do you think that's probably part of it, or do you think it's something else too, like just in the people give Ryan Reynolds a pass?
I think it's both. I think definitely the fact that Deadpool is a parody character gives them light to be a bit more fourth wall breaking, although I do think they're a bit excessive with it, but that's its own thing.
They love it.
Yeah, I like it's not tapping the fourth wall, it's straight up hitting it with a dang sledgehammer. But
it's sitting in the movie theater with you,
Yeah, like I generally agree with your point, Wes. I think where it still becomes like there's more to it is like, okay, here's a chief example. And I don't want this to be the focus of our pod because I really did enjoy this movie. But again, I want you to, at least while we're talking about it, look through the lens of, does this fall into that weird double standard of we complain about this for other movies, but we are cool with it in this one. But like, for example, the intro to this movie is him dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye while throwing around Logan's like metal corpse. I thought it was hilarious and I was genuinely enjoying it.
Okay.
But I've also seen comic book fans go livid when they feel like, oh, they're desecrating the image of this character. Like when people were upset about like that Suicide Squad game where they were mad that the Justice League died. It was like, oh, this is Kevin Conroy's last performance. Or even in She-Hulk where you have the post-credit scene where she's twerking with Meg Thee Stallion. And I'm like, why is She-Hulk twerking with Meg for like a post-credit scene? Suddenly this is awful. But Deadpool doing a bunch of choreography to a 90s boy band song, like peak humor. For the record, I loved both. And in both instances, I was losing my mind. But sometimes I can't help but notice those little inconsistencies of like, wait, do we like these things or do we not? Because She-Hulk is a parody character, right? Like her point is to very much poke fun at stuff. Like she's a fourth wall breaker too, like Deadpool.
Sort
like,
of, yeah.
I mean, in her comics, she is a certified fourth wall breaker. Like that's not
Gotcha, okay.
that's like one of her big shticks. I don't know. As we discuss this movie, I just want you to look through the lens of, have we complained about these exact things in other Marvel movies? And what does that say about audience expectations versus like what a movie's actually doing right or wrong?
Yeah.
But
Professor Vonnie, I think that's a good point, and we will keep that in mind for sure.
It's just like one of those, hey, just food for thought. But I don't know. I really did enjoy the hell out of this movie. And that opening scene, I was in tears laughing because it was
really funny.
It was funny as hell.
It's also really gruesome. Like,
yeah,
some of the things he was doing.
I was just like, so people on the internet are mad that they like, Logan had that cool ending, and they say, nah, F all that. We're about to just desecrate his entire corpse. I'm like, all right.
No, people are annoyed with that. I think
people get annoyed with that. All right, cool. At least I want to make sure there's some consistency.
Yeah, some of those definitely. There's that group out there. I was not in that camp. I still love Logan, and I think that was just a beautiful ending to that series and that franchise. But I, not that I can see how people would be annoyed with that, but like I would, I'm not surprised that people are kind of annoyed with that like they kind of undid it. But like the movie says, like, how are we gonna like
daddy? People act like Wolverine their daddy.
Yeah, and this movie also says like, how do we top like the amazingness of that movie? And it's like, we're just gonna like fuck around with it. Don't worry about it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, cool. Like that. It gives me permission.
That question from the bounce.
Yeah, it gives me permission just to be like, cool. Like, I don't need to think about that. They're not taking it seriously. They know it was a great movie, and they're not trying to like undo it. They're just trying to like fuck around and have fun, and that's totally fine with me. The first two movies for me for Deadpool, I really loved the first one. I thought it was just like really different from things we had seen. Ryan Reynolds' take on that character, was just sort of like an X-rated, R-rated amplification of like his sillier side of his character, like his performances in previous movies. And I've liked Ryan Reynolds in a lot of different movies already, so it just felt right, like that he was playing that character, and I thought they did a great job with that. And then plus it ended up actually having like quite a bit of heart, him finding himself, him finding love with Vanessa, and then actually having to love himself right after his horrible accident and all of that stuff that goes on with Project X. So I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought the second one was a little bit weaker. I think there were parts of it that like I kind of actually felt a little bit like, oh, this is a little too much. Like, can we just like get back to the story a little bit here? But it still had a lot of heart. Him and his like team, and we get more of the like surrounding characters, which is cool. So I've been a Deadpool enjoyer of the movies for sure. I didn't realize that the last one came out in like 2017. Is that right?
Closer to
Deadpool 2. If you could look that up for us. I think it was definitely 2018. Okay. So I mean, that's been a long time. I mean,
6 years.
That means that Ryan Reynolds is playing this character for like 8 or 9 years at this point.
Yeah, because the original Deadpool was like closer to 2016-ish, plus the production time leading up. But like this has been, I mean, I'd say it's not absurd to say this has like been almost 10 years of work for him.
And we're obviously talking about this version of Deadpool. He played Deadpool in one of the earlier like Wolverine movies, and everybody hated it. Yeah,
I remember he was so disappointed in it that I think that's part of why he was like, nah, man, we're gonna get this Deadpool movie. Because you gotta really read about how Ryan Reynolds got the movie made with no budget, and he leaked the test footage.
Yeah.
So that could
he like manipulated the higher ups to like get the fans on his side. Like it's like the Snyder cut, right? Like
he really was like, nah, man, I'm about to like, y'all screwed me over in this X-Men movie. I'm going to play this Deadpool and make it right. And he really went above and beyond. So I will say, despite all the stuff I was saying before, which again, that's more about fans than the movie itself, these movies in general have been made with a lot of care. I was actually reading about some of the
Oh yeah.
production of these movies, and they I know one of them, like, do you remember in one of the first Deadpool movies, he's supposed to get a big bag of guns, and he said he left the bag of guns behind, so he's got to, like, fight instead. Apparently,
Oh,
that
he
was
forgot
them.
his ammo. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they just blew the budget on marketing and didn't have enough money. They said Ryan Reynolds said they ran out of money shooting the film,
Oh, that's funny.
and
And
was
so
like,
when they got to that scene, they were like,
the gag of him leaving the guns behind was literally them just running out of budget and having to do
"Oh, that's
something
funny."
different because they spent so much on marketing. But, like, to your point, man, I guess you're right. We
And
said earlier,
CGI. There's a lot of CGI that has to go into these movies.
yeah, but you're right, man. Ryan Reynolds, I guess, is a marketing genius because the dude's very smart. But he said that the Disney, I think they said for this newest movie, he actually took a smaller budget than what Disney offered because he said, which was still a lot of money. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
But I think he talked about how them having a smaller budget forced them to be more creative, and that was something that benefited the older movies, right? Where if you have less, you have to do more, and that just kind of leads to just being a little more creative. But I also know the writer's strike impacted this movie a little bit too, because I know there was stuff
They had to take a
involving,
break,
like,
right?
yeah, and I know there's stuff involving, like, Ryan Reynolds not being allowed to improvise. It has to do with, like, the writer's strike stuff. There's a lot of technical stipulations I was reading about, but I'm sure that factored in. But all that to say, he puts a lot of work into these movies. He's really invested. I think it shows up in a lot of ways. And this has been, a trilogy that's been in the works as a whole for, like, over 10 years. And regardless of how you feel about the movie itself, you have to respect that a lot of care and effort went into this. This was not a soulless cash grab.
No, it's a soulful cash grab.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, which I'm cool with that. Like,
Yeah.
movies aren't here. Movies are here to make money. I get it.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to make money with a movie. We were just talking to Brian. Brian is saying that for his documentary, he's going to need a ton of money, and he's just working, like, on his own right now. So he doesn't have a big, like financier, producer who's like fronting the bill, and so he's having to do some of it. But, like, if he doesn't get somebody on board at some point, the movie can't actually get finished because he's not going to be able to pay, like, editors and all of the people he needs
just
to
the
pay
business,
to, like,
just the
make it
business
work.
side of everything.
Yeah. So, for sure, shout out to anybody who makes movies. Like, it's a hard business because of how much money it takes and time it takes to make these movies. So, it's something that I think me and you don't probably understand on a visceral level, but our buddy Brian, it knows it all too well. So, our hearts go out to him as he's trying to find somebody to take on his newest project and get him some of that funding he needs to make it happen, because he knows there's a good story in there, but until it actually gets financed, he can't finish the story. Like, he can get all the footage he wants, but there's going to be some costs involved in the finishing the movie. All right. We're going to get into some spoilers now, now that it's been 15 minutes of us just babbling about our love for Deadpool and stroking the vibranium femur of, Wolverine. Not vibranium, sorry, adamantium. Oh boy, I just lost my geek card right there. Woof. Cancel me, Sav. Cancel me. Okay, so we get into this idea that, like, the TVA is, or at least a faction of the TVA, is actually quite important in terms of this whole movie and setup and all of that. They're kind of, and then obviously we get is his name Tom in Succession? I don't know what his name is.
I don't know. I've never watched Succession before.
But the Succession dude. Okay, well, the British guy, right? The kind of the medium baddie. Yeah, he's obviously part of TVA, but kind of like he's trying to, like, take the TVA in its old direction back to the King direction. So what was that like for you, having them be the driving force? I honestly didn't care. I mean, it was fine. I think, it sort of tied it into Loki, a little bit into the multiverse, got them into the void. But other than that, like, I don't know. I don't need the TVA to be driving anything really in movies. So I kind of wish they wouldn't have done that, but it didn't bother me. I don't think they made a big deal about the TVA itself. It just kind of gets you into the void, which is what they needed.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of thing I want to ask somebody who hadn't seen Loki. Hey, how do you feel about the TVA? Because this is one of those, cool, I have context, I got background knowledge, I'll be just fine. But for the person who brought
was it
along,
confusing for people who haven't seen?
But for the person who brought, which for the record, they did a pretty good job of doing quick exposition of, like, what the TVA is, which Deadpool, of course, makes fun of. Holy exposition or whatever. But, like, they did a good job of, like, explaining the base roles. So,
okay.
That's one of those, and maybe this is for the listeners at home, for folks who didn't see Loki or have a lot of context. Did the TVA, like, was that jarring? Was that easy for you to accept? I mean, we kind of sensed some multiverse shenanigans. I mean, maybe you should have if you just saw that it's Deadpool, Wolverine, and you know that Logan's probably dead, or Logan is dead. But that's something I had questions about. I never had a huge issue with the TVA. I think Paradox was as
that's the name,
campy,
Paradox.
as campy and as fun as he was. I don't think he was a particularly like good villain. He was just fun to watch, be silly. But I agree, the TVA
And inept. He was also inept.
The TVA did their job of being the basically the taxi to get them from just the way station to get them from these various fantastical multiversal places. Like in that sense, the TVA did their job, and I didn't have any major complaints. I don't think they super added to the movie, but I don't think they took away from it by any means. And watching Deadpool killed faceless TVA goons was still pretty entertaining.
Yeah, and it was important in the sense that like they made the basis of the show or the movie around the universe was going to be ended, right? And so like that's obviously a TVA. That's ripe for TVA. Or Doctor Strange, I guess, if you want to go back to like Multiverse of Madness and bring him in or something. But
I'm gonna ask somebody who hadn't seen Loki what they thought, because it's just too. I think we just have way too much background knowledge to be able to fairly say, "Hey, how did this actually affect the storytelling for folks who didn't have context?" Like, I just don't know. I'm not qualified to answer that question.
I think that's a great point. Considering that both of us saw Loki and know what's going on there.
We know all the stuff.
Excuse me. I saw I saw Deadpool with two buddies, my brother-in-law and Jen's cousin. And I don't think they've seen Loki, and they didn't seem to have a problem with it. I know that it might have made more sense to them if they had seen it, obviously, but that wasn't something that they mentioned as like, oh, this kind of stuck out like as who are these people, or like why is it confusing?
And we had time travel last movie too in Deadpool 2. Granted, he had his cable device, so they did at least a semi-decent job of trying to granted that was irrelevant to what the conflict was, but like they still tried to cover their bases of, is it because of what I did in the last movie? No, we're a different entity, different stuff. So they that's good. If you're people who probably hadn't seen Loki were able to follow it, then I think they did a good job of providing that quick exposition for the listener or for the watcher who doesn't have a lot going on or doesn't have a lot of background knowledge.
I did miss how he got, or like which Deadpool was in the Earth 616 interview with Happy. That one I didn't understand how he got there. I watched some YouTubes afterwards and they were like, oh, he used the cable time traveling device or whatever to get there. But I didn't understand that, like, and why he had this wish to join the Avengers and all that. They were like, so that I matter, but it, again, like, I think that was probably maybe one of the weaker parts of the movie around his like wish to be part of the Avengers. I don't know. They probably could have cut that out a little bit. Also, props to them for making this movie like just 2 hours and not trying to make it 2.5 or 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah, still a long movie, because they even had opponents like, trust me, we're getting towards the end, because they even had some self-referencing lines about the movie's length. Again, I think some of that stuff of him being in a different universe is just like, don't overthink it too much. Deadpool is a character who already kind of breaks the conventions of how our storytelling works. Yeah, you're right, because all the stuff that happens with his birthday and the TVA coming is all years later after all the stuff with the Avengers. So I don't know, maybe at the time travel device, that's my guess. I wouldn't overthink it. He got there. They made their MCU joke. Let's not overthink this. Let's not overthink this too much. If you overthink it, none of these movies work.
I love that idea, because in some ways, right, like some movies, they do want you to like overthink it, right? They want you to get into the weeds of it.
Inception, if it's Inception or Shutter Island.
Well, but I think even some Marvel movies, right? Like Guardians of the Galaxy, like I know it's silly and it's a lot of fart jokes, but there is a lot of like, we're asking you to believe in this like group as a family. We're buying you in. We're getting you emotionally invested. And this movie doesn't do that very much at all. And you sort of have to, you can, right? You can choose to just sort of, turn your brain off, enjoy the show, which is how I enjoyed this movie. And I thought it was great. I listened to NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour, and they did not. All three of the hosts in there were pretty disappointed by this movie and felt like it didn't really like hold itself together through the movie. And they were like, yeah, we enjoyed the like jokes and stuff, but like it just felt like it was completely self-referential and and like not, they were like, oh, the fights didn't mean anything. Like, why were they even battling at all? And it's just like, I don't know. You just sort of miss when you watch this movie, I think in particular that way, the movie doesn't ask you to take those things seriously, and it gives you permission to not. and like go ahead and then just enjoy the movie as it is, like smooth brain, just however it is. And I think that's the way, like if I'm going to tell somebody to go see the movie, I'm going to say what you said. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy it. Laugh at the jokes. Enjoy the action. Don't think about like what's actually possible or why they were doing any things they were doing. Like, and it's not that this movie is like cheaply made or not well thought out or not done with care. It's that they do all of those things in the effort to have fun, right? And that's really the main purpose of what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the classic. We've talked about this on this pod for years, right? Where, and for God, I know I've been in this camp for so long of just stop judging a fish by its ability to fly and a bird by its ability to swim. Different movies are intended to be different things.
Yeah.
And it's okay for you to have your standards of what it's supposed to be. That's fine. Like that's what makes up our taste and what we like and opinions. But you should be able to watch a movie and at least get a sense of who it was made for and what it was going for. And it doesn't mean you have to like it, but it not being what you thought it should be does not mean that it's a bad movie.
Yeah. If it's trying to do something and it doesn't do that, then
That's
I think
different.
that's a problem, right?
But sometimes people judge
Ant-Man
a movie.
Quantumania, we're looking at you.
Yeah, but there's plenty of movies that tried to be something, or we are mad that it was something that it was never trying to be, and I just never found that's a fair way. You know, same way I tell folks, hey man, why are people so hard on the Avatar movies? Like they're meant to be CGI spectacles with some solid but not the strongest story and lots of visual storytelling and lots of cool nature fictional space lore. Just enjoy the ride. Take an edible, have a glass of wine and watch James Cameron have all this crazy beautiful stuff on screen. We're not judging Avatar because it doesn't have a story on the same quality of Inception or, you know, Oppenheimer or whatever the hell it is. People, you know, the why are we comparing deep art house type films to campy comic book films compared to, you know, yada yada yada? It's like you don't watch a comedy and then be mad that the stakes weren't high enough. Like, dude.
Yeah, this is Deadpool is a comedy and it made me laugh, so it gets a thumbs up from me.
It was meant to be a buddy action comedy that definitely and I think took a lot of cues from Wizard of Oz. This movie had a big Wizard of Oz feel to me, with just a fantastic world, all the silly characters and set pieces and all that. But like, stop! I just hate when people don't know how to enjoy a movie and just be like, "Yo, man, so." Does every movie have to just be real life and be the most grounded thing? These are the people who don't let fiction be enjoyable. Like
I think your point about Avatar is well made, but I would disagree a little bit only because, and we've already talked about this, but I do think they were trying to actually make a movie with a story that was compelling and interesting and build these characters up as like, I don't know, whatever, emotionally resonant characters, and I just don't think it did that. And so when we talk about judging it for what it wanted to be, I think you can judge it as like a technical and Marvel like a visual like amazing thing, and props to them for achieving on that level. But I do think they were trying to go for a beautiful story with like lovely characters and all of that good stuff and conflict, and I think that stuff fell a little bit flat. And so for me, that's where it felt like I can judge that movie for not having the strongest story compared to this one, where maybe it didn't have the strongest story, but like I don't care because that's not what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
That's all. Right. But if you enjoyed, or if you didn't think that they were going for the story, then I think that changes your enjoyment of Avatar for sure, right? All right. What were the strong parts? Let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, not about Avatar. What were the strong parts of this film for you? Give us some moments or some ideas, themes.
For me, just
for
as
you. Don't answer as anyone else.
As a kid who grew up watching all of the Fox Marvel movies.
Okay.
This movie being a love letter to those was one of my favorite things. I was just hit with nostalgia bombs all throughout the movie. And maybe
I'll say, talking about the cameos, or are you talking about other things?
I'm gonna go specifically with the cameos, like, okay. And and I'll talk more about the cameos once we kind of get to that more relevant question. But the cameos in general, I really enjoyed. And honestly, even though the fights themselves were very low stakes because these are two characters who functionally can't die, watching Wolverine and Deadpool
stabby,
go at it like two characters. Wolverine, I mean, Deadpool less so because they get to let him flex his violence in his movies. But Wolverine is one of the most neutered violent characters in media, period. You know, most of our lives watching stuff, we almost never see blood. Or if it's a cartoon, Wolverine's getting beat around or hitting robots or slicing stuff. But you never really just get to see Wolverine, who has claws, where their whole point is that they can cut through damn near anything, slicing through people. Like, we got some of that in Logan.
Is he like R-rated in the comics, or do they kind of also do the same thing in comics?
No, the comics, it depends on the writer, but comics in general aren't always trying to appeal to young children, so they get away with a lot more violence and blood, right? Compared to like live action or cartoons that are very much more like
X-Men,
for kids.
or the Wolverine Origins one, that was pretty bloody. I remember that one.
I mean, those, but even though they're more like PG-13 of like characters get slashed, but there's not just like, it's not.
I meant the comic.
Oh,
the comic where you learn about like Wolverine's.
The comics. In the comics, there's always blood. Like the comics are pretty good about being true to Wolverine being a very violent, slash you up, mess you up character. But you know, in shows they don't do that. I like that we got to see, and Logan gave us some of that. It gave us a lot of that. Yeah. But this got to give us a prime, more campy Wolverine who's younger, not this kind of older, retired on the way out version. Still downtrodden, but just as visceral. Like when Hugh Jackman did the on all fours crawl, I was like, let's go.
That was pretty cool.
It was great.
He almost had like a beast.
He was looking like a beast or like a Planet of the Apes type vibe. Like shout out to Andy Serkis. He probably gave him notes on how to move like that. But I just love getting the really accurate, visceral versions of characters who I think sometimes, because they're popular, you don't get to see them really show how violent they are. Like Deadpool has guns and shoots people in the head. That's cool. Wolverine, I just love the fights. The fights were brutal. I knew no one was gonna die, but I'm still like, yo, man, this is just great. And we get multiples of them. I'm here for it. I loved it.
Nice. I thought this movie, like, to me, they were trying to go for action and humor. And like those are right up my alley as just a smooth brain watcher. So I was a very happy Wesley during this entire movie. I think all the fight scenes felt different. It's not like they used the same gimmick or same shtick or same premise for any of the fights. They were all different. Some were like with 100 people. Some were just one-on-one. One happened in the middle of a Honda Odyssey. You know, like they're just all of these different fights and actions and cool. They used some bit of slow-mo. They did kind of that cool conceit of, okay, I'm going to kill people with just the bones, which like obviously is kind of a reference to that first fight in the first Deadpool where he only has the 12 bullets to kill the entire team that's attacking him, or that he attacks. Actually, he's the aggressor there. And so I don't know. I think all of the action setup was like really cool. There was, I don't know. I mean, yeah, just a ton of stuff. The jokes, to me, I think almost all of them landed. I don't think there was very many jokes where I was like, that's fine. I laughed like out loud in the theater with, you know, a bunch of other people. Everybody in the theater is laughing, you know, for any of it. I don't remember a lot of the jokes because, you know, my brain is the way it is. But
in
I did
fairness,
laugh.
Ryan Reynolds throws them jokes at you rapid fire. It's like watching an episode of Archer. Like, man, you gotta slow it down and get some notations out to keep up with all these jokes and references.
Yeah,
but the jokes were hysterical, bro.
It's for a rewatch. Yeah, I love, you know, they showed it in the trailer, but like when he says I'm Marvel Jesus, and but like the Paradox guy is just playing the straight man of like, no, what, you know, and like that just like sent me over. Yeah. And then the little wink from Wesley Snipes when he said I'm gonna be the only Blade or something like that, or I'm the only Blade.
And Deadpool looked at the camera with like that.
Yeah, because we know Mahershala Ali is supposed to be in a Blade,
yeah,
but it works
at
another level.
We'll see if it happens.
Exactly, it works on another level of like maybe Wesley Snipes is gonna get his way of like that movie's never gonna happen. And then and I think like that's definitely a joke that you have to be in the like pretty in the know to understand that reference, because not everybody knows like Mahershala Ali is going to play Blade in the future.
The inside jokes
that
were
there's delays
great.
on that movie. What's up?
Just in general, like the self-world referencing inside jokes were hysterical. Like, I'll let you finish.
I think
there was
really
a couple. There was a couple that like I was in theaters like, oh man, this is just.
Did you like the one where he said, "Oh, you're joining us at a little bit of a low point"?
I thought it was. I have my view on the state of the MCU right now. I thought it was a funny joke.
I enjoyed that greatly.
I liked when Blade came out and they're talking. And have you seen Blade Trinity?
maybe of a long
So,
time ago. That was the
so
one with Ryan Reynolds,
that's the
right?
one with Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds in it. And there was a line.
Apparently, they didn't get
Yeah,
along. Him
no,
and Wesley
exactly. It
Snipes.
was 100% that, and that's why when he said "I don't like you," he's like, "You never did." But the way they just did
They
some of
must have
those.
thrown enough of a bag at Wesley Snipes. He was like,
So
"I'll
Wesley
come
Snipes
back."
talked about how actually I saw an interview with Wesley Snipes talking about how Ryan Reynolds gave him the call after like 20 years. He's like, "Oh, I'm trying to do this thing." He's like, "Would you be down?" He's like, "Yeah, I mean, if you can make it happen, sure."
Okay.
But Wesley was like, "That's not gonna happen." And then he's like, but the way he talked about it was like, "Yeah, me and Ryan Reynolds are cool. But if if Ryan Reynolds gives you the call after 20 years, you pick up."
Okay.
But he was like, "Hey, can you make it happen?" And he did. But like, I guess it's a testament to Ryan Reynolds putting in that work, because people did not think that he was going to be able to pull in all these characters and actually get the rights and stuff to make it happen. But just so many meta reference jokes, dude, that were just either about like all the subtle references to Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, like, oh, like when, like, what is it? There's blah amount of bones in the human body, +1 if I'm watching Gossip Girl. Like, I didn't catch that his wife was in Gossip Girl. Someone told me that.
Yeah,
but
she's like the main character, one of the main characters.
Yeah, but there's just so many layers of jokes. There was a joke making fun of Hugh Jackman's recent divorce.
Yeah, I didn't know if they knew that was coming, because he's like recent divorce.
It happened in like November.
Yeah, I didn't know if they actually wrote that after the divorce or before the divorce.
Either way, I'm like, man, they do not play with these self-referencing jokes.
Yeah,
but I was
yeah, that might have been a little bit like, ugh.
I was like, God damn.
Like, Hugh, what do you think of this joke?
Daggers. I think he made a joke about his wife giving birth and looking really good after too. Like, he has a lot of just funny self-referencing jokes that,
she's
if you're a
in
Ryan
the movie,
Reynolds fan. Yeah, she's the female Deadpool. She's the
she's
woman
Lady
Deadpool. Lady Deadpool.
Okay, my favorite one though, and I don't know if you thought this was good or bad or stupid or both or all three, but Chris Evans shows up.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this is a major spoiler. If you do not want to know anything at all about this, or you want to be surprised by things, this is the one thing you should like skip forward a little bit. Chris Evans showing up as, in his like Captain America blue suit with like a shawl over his head in the middle of in the middle of the void, and you're like, oh, that's where he, maybe he's here, or one of his variants is here, and he's like, he's gonna say it, and he goes flame on and launches into the air as Johnny Storm. Oh my god, It was so funny to me, because I'm like, they've never acknowledged that he played Johnny Storm and then just became
different
Captain America.
universes,
Yes, but like in the beginning, it wasn't clear that there was like a multiverse, right? Like they literally just recast him from one Marvel movie to another Marvel movie and never acknowledged it. And so this was, to me, a really funny thing, because I'm just like, this has been not a question in my head, but I've been like, it's just like weird that they like never acknowledged that like he's got the same face as Johnny Storm,
There was nothing to acknowledge. There's no Fantastic Four in the MCU. That's two completely different. Like, the streams don't cross at all.
Yeah, but now they do.
Yeah, now they do. But dude, same thing. When I was in the theater,
really funny. I don't know. I enjoyed that. It's like a deep cut to that very first Fantastic Four movie that didn't get super well received, but
it was
enjoyed the little bit of a callback to that.
Dude, when I was in the theater and I saw that scene, like, so I saw, the character, and I was like,
people were so excited that it was Captain America.
Yeah. So I saw it and I was like,
they cheered.
I know, I saw it and I was like, wait, that's Chris Evans. I'm like, and I'm sitting next to Tony. I'm like, that's Chris Evans. And I'm like, ooh, and then he's jumping down, he takes the thing off, and I'm like, that's jumping down. And then, but then when I look, and this would happen with me, because the gears were actively turning.
Yeah.
When I saw all those other people pull up who were the old X-Men characters, my first thought was, wait, these are all old Fox property characters. Okay. Wait a second. That's not Chris Evans. That's not Captain America. That's Flame On. That's like, my brain pieced it together seconds before he said Flame On.
I was like, just completely caught off guard.
I saw the X-Men character, because at first I thought Captain America. Then I saw the X-Men characters and thought, these are a bunch of Fox characters. They wouldn't be here if, like, my brain once I saw like Pyro and like Sabretooth, I was like, I feel like that's Human Torch. And I started looking at the fit and I'm like, he's got the blue jumpsuit. Wait a second, I know that super suit. And they even put in like the slight like white and almost Captain America color scheme too to accentuate the blue. It was an amazing bait and switch. But
it was so good. My whole theater, I think, got by that.
Yeah.
They were cheering because they knew it was going to be Captain America and he was going to say Avengers Assemble, and then when they did the flame on, everybody was like, bah!
Yeah, that was one of my like. This is why. Granted, this wasn't in the trailer, but moments like that are why I am very anti-trailer because I'm chasing that dragon of just feeling joy in moments like that in life. Like let me talk about Inside Out, of feeling less joy. That's the dragon I'm chasing. I need as many moments of that where I can just get hit with pure glee and euphoria amongst this capitalist hellscape we live in.
Nice. I also really enjoyed Cassandra Nova. We talked before the show and you said she was just fine for you. I really liked how like kind of scary she was, how overpowered she seemed to be. And her little bit where she sticks her hand in people's brains and their heads was just like wild. And I don't know that I've seen things done like that.
She does it in the comics too. That's ripped like 100% out the comic. She does exactly what you're describing, and it's horrific.
Well, very cool that they managed to pull that off and make it kind of like creepy, but like believable and not like horror. Just like, oh, this is like kind of hilarious, but like kind of weird, and everyone's just like tickling my brain.
And that shit was awful.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's keep going. On the flip side, were there anything that didn't land for you?
Like. So,
are we just picking nits here?
I thought majority of the jokes were funny, but I think some of the humor of Deadpool, which I think by extension Ryan Reynolds, still comes off as a little bit dated and almost reminds me of like online internet comedy when I was in high school. To where, like, it's not that it's not funny, but sometimes they'll just take an expletive and then throw it next to another word. And, like, I don't want to just go on, like, a cursing tirade on the pod. Yeah. But, like, they'll say things like, oh, shit, fucking. I'm like, all right. That's, like, that just has this weird, distinctly Ryan Reynolds-y feel to it that I think is, like, if you scaled that back a little bit, the movie would be a little bit better for it.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world, but some of the stuff is just, like, it's a very... It almost feels like there's moments where it feels like, oh, a teenager just discovered curse words and is just stringing together. And I don't mind swearing. I love a good curse word. But like, I think there's flow to it. There's how you use them. But if you just take all the swears and just start mashing them together, it's like, all right, you're just a kid mixing all the soda flavors together. Like, I need you to have a little bit of discernment. So like, does that make sense what I'm trying to say, Wes?
I think so, yeah.
Like some of the stuff is just like the cursing and swearing or just jokes. It's like, all right, this is just a bit much. Now it feels like you're just cursing for the sake of it. Deadpool specifically, I think the other characters were pretty chill with it, but
yeah, like, I don't know how comic accurate that is, but
it's like I've read some Deadpool comics, but it just feels just a little sophomoric, like a little just like the same reason I didn't like them doing dubstep jokes in Deadpool 2. I'm like, these dubstep jokes feel like 4 years late. Some of the styles of jokes in here, I'm like, ooh, this is funny, but this would have been funny like 4 or 5 years ago.
Gotcha. That's fair. I think that's fair.
Ryan Reynolds has a few hello fellow kids moments where it's like, okay, you're not actually as tapped in or as in touch as you thought with some of these jokes you made. More power to you.
We outside.
Yeah,
like
more power
to you. Did it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you couldn't do that joke this year. It's a little bit dated this year, right? Like it had to happen last year.
No, it's just one of those. It's the same. You know what? It's just one of those. Ninja Turtles, the writers' room clearly had younger folks in it. You can just tell that this is like people whose pop.
And maybe
put it like this: we have
less white people in that writers' room.
Yeah, that too. But put it like this: put it like this. As funny as the NSYNC Bye Bye intro was.
Yeah,
that's clearly written by some older middle-aged dude because younger people in writing rooms don't think 90s NSYNC jokes are funny.
No.
You know? So while I found that sequence funny, I also was like, oh, it's very clear that like some just older dudes who maybe are less tapped in with the modern culture are like deciding, hey, is this funny? Like, yeah, I guess NSYNC Bye Bye. Like, but that was funny 10 years ago too. Like, you could have did the same joke 10, 15 years ago and it still would have been the same type of joke. So
yeah. All right. I think that's fair.
It's a nitpick, but I think it speaks to why you want to have more variety in your writer's room, because some of the jokes the humor felt a little too Ryan Reynolds-ish at times. And I would love for there to be some mixture of other writing and humor styles to balance it out.
I see. I don't even know if that bye
Because
thing is
Deadpool's
Ryan
funny.
Reynolds
Because
thing.
Deadpool's
Yeah.
funny, but sometimes it's like someone needs a little bit of something to balance this out a little bit. Which, granted, that's Wolverine's entire point in the story. But I think in terms of the writing, they could have used a little bit of that too.
That's fair. I know
But
I said
I'm
don't
nitpicking.
overthink things too much in this movie, but if you were going into thinking too much things part of the movie, not about like plot points necessarily, just in terms of like emotional arcs in the movie. The one thing that was like a little bit jarring for me was they sort of went too quick, I think, from Ryan or from Deadpool and Wolverine being like stabby the whole time to kind of like an uneasy truce to like, okay, we're teammates now. And then Wolverine like shows up to the final battle and is like 100% in. And part of that is like he has this conversation with Laura X-23 about himself, right? Like she reminds him who he is a little bit, and that's fine. And I think that helped build a reason why he was going to hop in the car anyways. Although I don't know that you could hide in an Odyssey and people not notice, but whatever. But what was interesting was like he had to team up with Deadpool. He didn't have to team up with X-23. So it would make sense that he went to battle for X-23, but he was actually going to battle with, or to this fight with Deadpool, and they hadn't really established like why they would care about each other on that deeper level. Like why would they be sacrificing themselves for each other or for Deadpool's world? And I think that's the one part where I was like, ooh, I wish you could have got us a little more emotionally invested in that little like turn. But did it stop me from enjoying the movie at all?
Yeah.
No. I still 100% enjoyed this movie. It's not even a 1% like less enjoyment. Like I think they could have done more with that. They didn't. It's fine. But that would be one quibble I would have that didn't quite land with me.
That's reasonable. I don't disagree with you really. I think you just have to. I think I personally just chalk it up to like Logan Wolverine, no matter what version, is always shown to be at his root, at his core, a caring person who'll do the right thing. So I'm just like, you know what? You're right. Maybe they could have done that, but I think the assumption is we don't need to hammer that point home. In pretty much every version of Wolverine we've ever seen in any media, really, even when he's done the most awful stuff, in a lot of versions he has done awful stuff. That's his whole character, right? Is that he still is a good-natured person. So I'm okay with just you don't need to flesh and expand everything out. We know that Logan at his core has a good heart. They even established that about the old Logan being the anchor being and all that, of like, hey, he's a good man. This is just a good man of this really broken down version coming out. Again, you don't need an entire scene of them having to kiss and make up to kind of drive home that Wolverine's at his core a good man. And when he had, nothing else to lose, say, all right, cool, let me try and do what I see as the right thing. But
he's a protector, right?
Ultimately, he's movies. Ultimately, his struggle is never about being a good person at root. It's about letting that come out when the time comes. So it's not like this guy was a villain who decided to change his mind, which I think would be different. This dude was always a good person. This is just a very beaten down version.
Right.
And even this version, who's the worst,
he didn't have confidence that he could help things, right? He was like, oh no, I mess it up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's a confidence thing too. So I didn't have the biggest issue, but I get where you're coming from. My biggest thing actually was his similar note. I didn't like that when they said, hey, we can't actually change any of this stuff because this is what made you who you are, which I actually think is a good message. But I think Wolverine accepted that a little bit too quickly for my taste. Like, even if he has to accept it, I would have loved some, like, he's pissed off, he's mad, he has to kind of, but then reel it in of like, oh, I guess. I thought they kind of just kept it moving. Like, all right, let's get shawarma. And I'm like, okay, like, so Wolverine this man has been through a lot. This is a very broken version of Wolverine.
You're saying the part where they said we could fix your...
They said there's nothing to fix. When he said there's nothing to fix, which means that all the awful stuff that happened with that character can't be undone, which I'm cool with that. That's like a good concept. Like, that's fine. It is because they're right.
Well, and she made a point that like that having gone through experience is why you were able to do this.
Exactly.
And if we undo that, that's right.
All this would have, that literally all of that I'm fine with. It is literally just his reaction to that news. I think he kind of makes. I think, and I was like, I would have liked him to be a little more pissed because he's clearly been through so much. But
the movie was over.
The movie was the movie was 2+ hours.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's not.
if we
Let's
had
not dive
gotten
into
those
that.
scenes, then we would be here pissing and moaning about the movie being too long. So,
Yeah.
like,
Well, we would have been like, wait, the movie ended and then it didn't end, right? Which is, yeah, nah, you
and
can't
we've
do
done
that. I
that.
agree with you.
Some of this is like a man. You got to pick one. Choose your poison, because otherwise, audiences are pretty much impossible to make happy. I think I don't have anything that's like, oh, you dropped the ball and should have did this different. Because I see you. I kind of at least get what their thought process was, in putting it together.
Yeah.
But
we were going to talk about like moments that made you stand out of your seat. Did you want to add anything? We kind of talked about that earlier when we talked about Flame On.
Yeah,
and
that was
that.
one. Well, I thought, man, there's no way they can have more cool shit happen. And then they did. It was like Blade coming out. I was like, oh my God.
I wasn't that excited. I was like, oh, that's cool. At first, I was like, wait, Wesley Snipes is much skinnier than he used to be. So at first I was like, wait, is that Mahershala Ali? And then they got in closer and I was like, oh no, it's definitely Wesley Snipes. I was like, this is cool.
Wesley. Whatever, Wes. Bringing out the old characters like Elektra and them was funny, because at this point I'm just like, oh, this is just the all-timers of
Did
all
you like
my
the
favorites.
Gambit cameo?
Yes. Okay, so I want to talk about the Gambit cameo, because you didn't get a lot of that, the meta humor behind
not
that.
Not when I saw it.
Ooh,
I've
is that a
seen
Mulan?
since,
Is that a Mulan kimono wearing Kaya in the background?
Oh yeah. Well, Chinese people don't wear kimonos, but yes, it's a Mulan outfit. Hello.
Oh shit, you're right. Oh no, I was ignorant.
You want what? You're Mulan. Say hi, Uncle Sav.
Hi, Uncle Sav.
Yeah, she got the salve out.
She can't hear you all if you want to talk to her.
Nah, she doesn't need to hear me. I have nothing that this child needs to be hearing.
All right. Will you go hang out with mommy? No, you don't want to hang out with mommy? Okay,
She just said no.
Okay, if you're in here, you have to be quiet. You can't say anything, okay? Okay. Go sit on the bed or something. All right.
No, I love it. No, but I was a big fan of the Gambit cameo, because for context, people at home, for years, and I mean like 7, 8 years, Gambit, there was a Gambit movie that was supposed to be in the works that was in development hell, and then eventually pulled the plug on it. And Channing Tatum's name was attached to it for quite some time. So if you were on the internet back then, like I was in high school, college, whatever, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was, you could find lots of fan casting pictures of Channing Tatum as Gambit. But the movie never happened. It never, there's even like a article from 2 years ago with Channing Tatum talking about how he was sad that never was able to happen, because he was a big fan. So the entire Channing Tatum Gambit was this huge meta reference to a movie that never happened. And even in some of the lines in a movie where he's like, I never met my daddy. I think I've been here my whole life. Like, they keep making subtle references because he's there, because unlike the other characters who had movies in a universe that they were pruned
he never had a movie yet.
He never even had a movie.
He's just been stuck in the void in purgatory forever.
Like, he even said, I think I just was here my whole life. It's like, yeah. So that's one of those, it's still funny if you don't have context, but if you have context, this is just such a layered joke that to me drives home, man. They really, in the writer's room, they were in their bag in terms of some of these deep cut references. Like you could legit watch one of those 1 hour breakdown videos, and there's just so much that you will have not caught. And like, I love that. Or even the references to like, oh, where's the other guy? He talked about like the other Fox characters who couldn't make it, like Daredevil. And what was the actress name? Jennifer Hale. She made some comment that reminded me that, oh yeah, she used to be with Ben Affleck and they broke up. So the line of her saying, whatever, is like this dope meta reference to the real life actor.
Oh, Jennifer Gardner. Yeah.
Gardner. Yeah, my Jennifers, I mess up all my Jennifers. Except Jen Nakamura. She's cool.
Jen Nakamura.
I know her. She's my favorite Jen.
I liked the big Deadpool scene where all of the Deadpools came out of the portal, and just like there was kid Deadpool made me laugh the hardest. But there's just a bunch of like things. I bet you some of those things have been in comics. Like I know Lady Deadpool's been in comics. I don't think they put a Gwenpool in there. I didn't see one.
I didn't see one either.
But like they had the cowboy western Deadpool. They had like a samurai Deadpool. They had like a deathly
Western
Deadpool,
Deadpool.
like the gray one. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's kind of like not like a zombie, but I don't know, like a Death Eater Deadpool.
I'll send you the video because it breaks down all the different
All of
versions of him that actually appeared in other comics and media.
Okay.
But that fight was great, dude. The fact that all those
It was fun.
it was the best part was watching that ridiculous fight, all the absurdity, and then I'm watching it like, so any of these dudes gonna like regenerate? And then as I asked that question,
They came
I'm
back.
like, all right, cool, bet, okay, we're
Yeah.
on the same page.
Well, they switched us up because Nice Pool wasn't able to regenerate. And so we're
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe characters that are in the void, maybe not all Deadpools have this ability. And then they did.
Yeah. Honestly, them killing Nice Pool was probably the only thing in the movie that I genuinely didn't like.
It was a little bit weird.
It felt out of place. It
Yeah.
felt like, what are we like? What's the jokes here supposed to be? Like
Yeah.
him as the funny, nice version earlier, and like his whole Wizard of Oz, follow the other big bro thing was like, I actually really enjoyed that. But him just getting violently shot up at the end by a character who can't die anyway, I'm like, why are we being so mean to this character? He's so chill. He's so
Yeah,
nice.
for
Why
sure.
are we just brutalizing him? That might be
Yeah.
the only part of the movie that I genuinely didn't like.
Okay.
Everything else I was either loved or was neutral at worst.
I didn't really get excited by the Wolverine mask. It like was clearly a moment where they thought they were gonna get like a big applause, kind of like when Chris Evans picks up Mjolnir in Endgame,
Yeah.
and it just didn't. The entire theater was like silent, like okay. He put on the
That was
mask.
my reaction, like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
It wasn't
so
like a bad, it was just like, okay.
No. Yeah, it was fine. It also looked a little weird, but it was fine. But that moment I think they thought was going to be a much bigger like cheering moment for all the like fanboys, and it just didn't, in my theater at least, didn't go that way. Which is kind of a shame. I wish it would have been like kind of, the fulfillment of all these people, but I don't think anybody was calling for Hugh Jackman's face to be covered up. They like looking at Hugh Jackman's face.
Yeah, like looking at his abs.
Yeah, and his abs. They were glorious abs. Although I don't know, maybe that was an ab double.
I heard that was him.
Okay, all right.
Take it with a
Yeah,
grain
and
of
props
salt.
to him for being like 50 something and still getting in the gym. And
Come on, he's
taking
on the
that
gear. He's on the
testosterone.
gear. He's on that gear. Come on now. You still got to work hard. Respect to him, but
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
come on.
I mean, he
now.
might be taking some supplements and some testosterone, but that's fine. Like, you still got to get in the gym every day and be doing what you're doing.
That being said, give us Short King Wolverine. Give me comic accurate Wolverine. I will not go for this short man erasure. He is the king of the short kings. 5'3", puts in work.
He's supposed to be 5'3" in real life.
Yes, remember that? You remember that scene when Deadpool went looking for different versions and he saw that shorter version?
Yeah, but I didn't know in the comics he's supposed to be as short as 5'3".
That
Like,
is
I'm 5'5" and I'm already short. Like 5'3" is like really short.
Wes, that was not a joke when they said comic accurate Wolverine. Like, he is 5'3". That's why the character's so badass, because he's supposed to be a tank who's indestructible and has the claws. And I feel like a lot of times they put, at least in the comics and cartoons and stuff, they put him next to these big old characters like Hulk. So you think, oh, it's like, nah, man. I am a full foot taller than comic Wolverine.
Oh, interesting.
Like, even you, Wes, you said you're on the shorter side. You are taller than Wolverine.
I'm still taller.
Like,
yeah.
And not like a tippy toe taller. Like, nah, he's going to have to look up to you, bub. Give me that. I'm sick of this short erasure.
Oh, I didn't realize he was that short. In the pictures I've seen from comic books, I never see him, like, I guess with somebody who's medium or taller height.
Next time you look at a Wolverine comic or panel, really look at him like next to people, and you realize, oh boys,
like Cyclops is probably average to above average height. So if they put him next to him, he should look short.
Wolverine should be the shortest X-Men by far.
Okay. All right, we'll take a look. Well, Nightcrawler isn't he supposed to be a little shorter?
Wolverine is. I know. I'm pretty sure Nightcrawler is taller than 5'3".
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see. Okay, so Deadpool and Wolverine. One of the complaints I've heard, and I heard it from the NPR political pop culture happy hour, and also just online, people have kind of mentioned like
NPR.
Just kind of like no low. Well, they do their pop culture happy hour.
Trolling.
They pull in a lot of people. But the stakes of Wolverine and Deadpool fighting is obviously a little bit off because they really can't kill each other. They just regen themselves, even if they have to take a minute to take a break like they did in the movie. Mm-hmm. But Sav, I thought this would be a good opportunity just to ask you something silly. Like, what's something you do, like maybe fighting Wolverine when you're Deadpool, knowing that you're not going to make any progress in this effort of yours, but you love to do it anyway?
So in a weird sense, I do make progress, but it is still a wall that I run into consistently. Is I am a night owl, and simultaneously I'm an early bird.
Oh no,
And I
that's the
get,
worst of all worlds.
yeah, it's the best of all worlds, except I need to sleep, right? And I get FOMO when it comes to my actual waking hours. So I feel like I have to go to bed late and get up
Not
early.
miss
It's
anything.
like a reclamation of my time. Because I feel like if I'm consistently going to bed early or sleeping in, I am literally wasting my life. Now that's not true, obviously, but one thing I'll do is I'll sometimes not get as much sleep as I need. I can do that for a day or two, but if I do
Then
it
it
for too
catches up to
long,
you.
I accrue too much sleep debt, and then you have to pay back that sleep debt with interest. So I could do a 6-hour night, a couple days out the week if I'm feeling bold and I want to just enjoy my night. But if I do it too many in a row, I'm gonna lose a Saturday or a Friday because I'll be so exhausted that I'm just gonna pass out and be,
Sleep the
not
whole day.
sleep the whole
All
day,
right.
which is like the worst version of the thing I'm trying to avoid. Right?
Yeah,
So
you really missed the whole day,
yeah, so
or like 4 hours of the day.
I'm in a constant battle of staying up late, getting up early, and not letting my sleep debt screw me over too hard. Because one thing about sleep debt, you pay it back with interest. You don't just say, "Oh, I cut myself 5 hours short Monday through Friday. I'll make it up on a different day." It's like, "Oh, you didn't sleep those extra hours? Cool. Well, we're gonna need those 5 hours back plus another five." Next thing you know, you're just a mess.
I'm a believer in that the nap makes up for a lot of it. So if you
I also
miss
hate
2
napping.
hours, if you miss 2 hours of sleep and you get an hour of sleep the next day, I think you're pretty good. I think that gets you close. So I don't think it's interest. I think you could cheat the system a little bit. That's how I view
I drank a lot of tea and coffee to help cheat the system.
it. I don't drink tea and coffee actually.
Yeah,
People
you
have been
just out
asking me
here
this
raw
at work.
dogging life. You built different. Boy, you
Everybody
got
at
a
work's been
job.
asking me. They'll be like, "You don't drink coffee?" And I'll be like, "No, I don't drink
Wes,
coffee."
you
They're
are
like,
a
"Tea?"
teacher with
Yeah.
hobbies and 2 children.
Yeah. No
And
coffee.
you just don't drink coffee. You don't
Nah.
drink. You don't smoke weed.
No.
You build different, dog.
Sometimes I drink soda. That's probably my one source of caffeine.
But drinking an effing Dr. Pepper. Oh,
Yeah.
Wes feeling real naughty. Gonna drink a Dr. Pepper this
No,
week.
not naughty. Just that'll give me a little boost. Except
meanwhile-
caffeine in soda, I don't think that keeps me up or anything. I could
First of all,
definitely take a nap.
most soda has so little caffeine in it.
I'm not sure. We were looking that up this week. I think it has like the same amount as a cup of coffee.
Bull dinky.
All right. So maybe it depends on what kind of coffee. I don't know. But my thing that I do that I know it's dumb is I play on Apex Legends, but I play with randoms. And, like anything, sometimes you get good teammates. A lot of times you get kind of like mediocre or regular teammates. And sometimes you get teammates that just do like inexplicable things. And it's frustrating for sure, that experience of doing it, but I still love the game and I really enjoy playing. And like, even in games like that, I try and take away like, well, maybe I played well, or, even if we didn't get a win or do the right thing, at least like maybe we had some good times and we got to do things and whatever. So I don't, I shouldn't probably play with randoms as much as I do because of how frustrating that can be.
Yeah.
But I love to do it anyways because I really enjoy the game and I can't always wait for Savon or Tyler or Kendall to be available to play. And if I always waited for them, then I wouldn't play the game very much because my schedule is also a little bit tight. So I gotta bite the random bullet and
but stop posting, but stop ranting. No, but stop posting in our group chat you being mad about randoms doing the things that we've told you they do for literal years. It's not.
What was I mad about yesterday?
Something. You was just mad because my teammate blows smoke and the smoke blocks me. I'm like, Wes,
oh yeah,
what the hell you want us to do?
Sometimes fucking you be in Bangalore.
Wes, you be in that group chat, dear diary,
launching the smoke around the bad guys so we can't see them. How am I supposed to shoot the bad guys if I can't see them? How? The game is team deathmatch. I have to be able to see them to kill them.
Wes, you live in the United States and you are a teacher in Texas. You know damn well how dumb the average person is. Like, why are you acting surprised when people who have track records of doing dumb stuff in the aggregate do dumb stuff and then you seem surprised? It's not that you solo queue with random folks. Like, more power to you. It's that you solo queue and then you act surprised when people do the reason that we don't solo queue. I've solo queued before. I've solo queued to plat before. I've done it. I did it and said, you know what? I don't enjoy this. Or the ratio of positive interactions to negative interactions is just
not good enough.
It's too volatile for this to be how I spend my limited leisure time.
I do. I mean, I do.
Find you a single player game
that
or
play well though.
Yeah,
well,
play mixtape. Play a single. Look, when I'm like, oh man, the randoms in Apex are acting real extra dumb. The smoothies are being real extra smooth brain today. I'm like, you know what? It's time to play some Tekken, where at least if I get my ass beat, it's my fault. Or let me play some Elden Ring, where everyone gets their ass beat by design. But I'm sure as hell not about to get called a racial slur by somebody who decided to run off, drop by themselves, fight a team, die, and then cost me rank
that's so
points.
frustrating.
Like, there's way easier ways that I can be called out of my name.
I hate when people solo drop like in a team. Like you could have just solo queued by yourself. Apex gives you the option to not be on a team.
They need teammates as meat puppets so that you play chicken and make them have to stick with you to divert attention. So no,
I don't. Well, okay. You will sometimes when we play together with a random person, you will sometimes go with them because your idea is like, well, if we stick together, at least we have something on the team. And my idea is I'm not going with you because that rewards your bad behavior and increases the chances that you'll survive. If you die, maybe you will learn not to do that.
Those people don't learn. I'm not here to make a moral standing and teach them a lesson. Those folks will not.
That cannot be acceptable behavior.
No, I know that they're not going to change. At this point, I'm just trying to either get points or do damage control, or if we're going to fight, we're going to rise and fall as a team.
I'll sacrifice the game. You cannot lower the standards, and that becomes the norm.
That's why here's the real solution.
It has to be clear that that's unacceptable behavior.
That's why I don't solo queue. It is unacceptable.
You're a pariah, a social pariah if you do that, and you deserve to die on your own.
Wes, those people are never going to be people you're consistently playing with, so they will do that. They will do that forever.
But if enough of us do that and reinforce that that's not a winning strategy and you will die, then maybe it'll work.
This game been out for 5 years. I promise you, those people have not changed.
And even if they don't, it still can't be the norm because maybe other people are looking at that and being like, maybe I'll solo drop.
No,
people drop with the team.
People do not change. People do not. All you can do is adapt to people and hope for the best. Look, we play with friends of the show. Tyler. We play with friends of the show Tyler all the time. You know that he's not going to change how he play, for better or for worse. So you can either you can either decide that we're going to play Civil War.
He provides a lot of benefits. As much as the games that he's cost us, he has also won more games for us.
But that's true. He does. But my general point is, regardless of whether it works or doesn't work, my point isn't about efficacy. It's about people's capacity for change is very limited. And I'm at a stage in my life of I'm not trying to change folks. I'm just going to try and work with it to get what I need. Which is why I'd rather play with my friends.
I don't change. You don't change. We just do the same stupid stuff over again. I'm 40 and I'm still not sleeping enough and playing video games with randoms that I shouldn't be playing with. All right, friends.
You really feel different
and I don't drink coffee.
Behavior. And this man, this man does that sober. This man intentionally plays high communication, intense online shooters with randoms who he knows are gonna do dumb stuff, and he does it with his pure state of mind. He not lit. He don't got something to numb the pain or to be able to just be more apathetic. Wes, honestly, you might be built different. I'm just optimistic. I don't know if I can do that.
Sometimes it works.
That's what you smoking? Optimism?
Optimism.
Can you send me an ounce of that?
Yeah. All right. Real quick, 5-second answer. Is there anyone who this movie isn't going to tickle their fancy? Because it seems like everybody's seeing this movie. This movie has made $1 gazillion already, and it's only been out for 2 weekends. What do you think? Is there an audience out there who they would just be kind of turned off by this? I mean, assuming it's not who only watch rom-coms.
My mom and brother would never watch this kind of movie. They don't really.
Your brother wouldn't watch it?
No, he's not into superhero stuff at all. He might know a little bit about Wolverine but he'd be going into this movie blind with next to zero context.
And you don't think he'd enjoy this? I think you could enjoy this without knowing a lot of context.
Nah, I don't think so. I think there's still some baseline context you need of at least knowing who base characters are. My mom isn't somebody who's just going to be like, oh, that's Wolverine. Oh, that's Deadpool.
Okay.
Maybe if you prompt her a little bit, but she's not going to see that poster. If I would have put that movie on just in the living room, she's not going to watch it and be like, oh yeah, this is interesting. Let me follow this. It's a very wide appealing movie, but if you are just not into superhero content, not in terms of, oh, I dislike it, but in terms of just, I don't even engage with it.
Yeah.
then that's going to be a big blind spot for those audiences.
I think that makes sense, and I was trying to exclude that sort of caveat because I think that makes the question too easy. Is there like an action, people who like action movies or who like comic book movies or whatever? Maybe not comic. I think everybody who likes comic book movies will like this or should see it. But if you
you
like
at least
action
just
movies,
know who Deadpool is, like put it like this.
Yeah.
This movie is good for people who, even if you're not a huge comic book fan, if you are at least just aware of the characters that exist and are at least generally aware of the MCU just from kind of like pop culture osmosis,
Yeah.
which is most folks, you'll still be able to enjoy the movie. But there's plenty of folks who are not in that circle at all who are just like the things that this movie brings to the table just doesn't appeal to them. Not in terms of being bad, but in terms of like there's nothing to draw them in. But even if you don't watch Marvel movies, but you still know about Marvel, know that they've had a lot of stuff, some of questionable quality. You know who Chris Evans is, like you know who Ryan Reynolds are. If you're a little bit plugged into just pop culture as a whole, you will enjoy the hell out of this movie. If you're someone who doesn't really follow pop culture closely, especially mainstream, the movie's just not going to resonate in the same way.
All right,
because there is baseline, not movie background knowledge, but pop culture background knowledge. Like if you just don't know what the MCU is and about multiverse stuff, a lot of the really good jokes just won't land. But you don't have to watch Marvel to be able to get those jokes.
Yeah.
Same way folks haven't seen Star Wars, but they still know basic overarching things about the series. So if you were to present a Star Wars parody, they like I've never seen Godfather, but I know a Godfather parody when I see one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that.
All right. Good 5-second answer.
Sorry.
I have nothing more to add. I think most people would enjoy this, and I don't think I'd be as strict on like you have to know certain things. I think if you're just going in like wanting to see a good action movie, even if you don't know a lot, I think you could still enjoy this movie. Maybe you just wouldn't get all the like tiny little references, but there's enough like general comedy and general action that you would still find it enjoyable. All right, friends. I don't know what our next thing is going to be. Sav, do you know what we're talking about next?
No, I gotta check, but I imagine House of the Dragon wraps up tonight's the season finale, so we'll probably do some House of the Dragon wrap up.
Yeah, get your House of the Dragon in. That's your homework.
I don't know. I gotta see what else. We gotta see what other shows is coming out. Any other movies? We're getting towards the end of like the summer season, so a lot of the blockbusters are kind of passing by. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll be back with y'all soon. Figuring out what
we'll put it on. We'll put it on IG what the homework is. But for sure, House of the Dragon, finish it up.
Oh hell yeah!
We're gonna watch it tonight or tomorrow, and see how this last episode shakes out, because the second to last episode really shook things up. That episode 7.
Yeah, that was
good times.
Wild stuff.
All right, friends, we're out of here. See you later. Sorry about the background noise. Kaya is at an age where doors no longer stop her.
I gotta get the locks going.
Yeah, this room doesn't have a lock on the door. We may need to change that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, see you later, guys.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye, Kaya.
Bye, Kaya. Say bye, Kaya.
Bye.